I was tutoring Betsy's younger brother, Jack, at her house. Suddenly, my online girlfriend texted me, "Babe, my mom found a tutor for my brother. And guess what? It's my classmate, the guy I despise the most. Betsy hates me the most, doesn't she?" I thought, could this guy be even more annoying? I have to find a way to get rid of him. Betsy muttered to herself, her fingers dancing across her phone screen. Her message scared me so much that I couldn't even reply. It couldn't be such a coincidence, could it? Although my online girlfriend lived in the same city and we had never met, it couldn't possibly be Betsy, right? "Lee, could you please stop staring at your phone and teach my brother?" Betsy snapped, glaring at me, catching me red-handed. All right, I quickly put my phone down, relieved that she hadn't noticed anything unusual. She went back to texting furiously, and a second later, my phone started buzzing non-stop. "You don't want me on my phone, but you're over there messaging away," I muttered, looking up to meet her annoyed gaze. I silently switched my phone to silent mode, thankful she didn't notice anything. I still can't believe it, I thought. My online girlfriend was considered a joke in school. Everyone knew she was the unapproachable ice queen. Betsy's face was flushed with anger, and she looked ready to throw her phone at me. Her beauty was undeniable. Her long, slender legs were crossed under the table, captivating my attention. The scent of her expensive perfume filled the air, erasing the last bit of math knowledge from my brain. I almost forgot how to solve for the area of a triangle. "Teacher, did I do this question right?" Jack asked excitedly, handing me his workbook. I glanced at it. He had indeed followed my instructions step by step. He was a smart kid. I only needed to explain a concept once, and he could apply it to all similar problems. "You're a fast learner," I said, nodding in approval. "Is there anything else you don't understand?" I glanced at the clock. We were already an hour over our session. The interview said nothing about pay. At this rate, I'm losing money. Jack was smart, but it was clear he hadn't been paying attention in class. "Nope, thanks, teacher. You're a great teacher." The door opened, and Betsy's mother walked in, her face adorned with an elegant smile. "She's stunning," I thought. No wonder Betsy is so beautiful. "Jack, how's the tutoring going with Lee? Are you learning anything?" she asked, her voice as sweet as honey. "Yes, Lee is a fantastic teacher. He's so patient and handsome. I think he should stay and keep teaching me," Jack exclaimed, nodding enthusiastically. Although I kept a straight face, I was secretly ecstatic about the compliments. I couldn't help but sneak a peek at Betsy's reaction. It was the complete opposite of her brother's. Her face grew darker, and I swear her phone was about to crumble under her grip. "Well, I've never seen you so happy with a tutor before. Lee, why don't you stay on as his tutor?" Betsy's mom said warmly. Jack jumped for joy, ecstatic. "Please, Mom, please, don't call him teacher, sweetie. Just call him Lee," his mom corrected gently. "Okay, Mom. Well, it's getting pretty late," she said, turning to me. "Why don't you stay with us tonight, Lee? You and Betsy go to the same school, so she can drive you tomorrow morning. It's much more convenient." My heart skipped a beat. I instinctively looked at Betsy, only to meet her gaze. Panic surged through me, and I quickly waved my hands dismissively. "Oh no, ma'am, that's all right. I have to go to the hospital," I stammered. "Oh, you don't need to call me ma'am, Lee. Just call me Sarah," she said with a warm smile. "Okay, Sarah, I need to go to the hospital," I repeated, trying to sound more confident. "Of course, dear, I understand," Sarah said sympathetically. "You're such a responsible young man, unlike my Betsy, who loves to play around." I glanced at Betsy and noticed her shirt had slipped down, revealing her delicate collarbone. I was captivated but quickly averted my gaze when I caught her staring back at me. Her face was flushed, a mixture of embarrassment and rage. The warm lighting in the room only accentuated her beauty. I couldn't help but look away, afraid she might kill me if we were alone. At that moment, I realized Sarah had no idea about the tension between me and her daughter. "The city hospital is quite far from here," Sarah said. "Betsy, why don't you drive Lee there?" Before I could protest, Sarah grabbed Betsy's arm and pulled her up. "Did you not hear me? Drive Lee home. Don't you realize how hard it was to find a tutor Jack actually likes?" she scolded. Betsy grabbed her Ferrari keys from the table, her face a mask of displeasure. Her family's wealth was well known. A mansion in the city's priciest district, a Ferrari for school runs. These were just a few perks of being a member of the elite. It was no wonder most guys were too intimidated to even approach her. After saying goodbye to Sarah, I followed Betsy outside. As the door shut behind us, a chill ran down my spine. "You," Betsy said, her voice filled with disdain. "How dare you call yourself a teacher?" I was about to apologize, but her words stopped me in my tracks. "What are you talking about?" I asked, feigning ignorance. "Don't play dumb. You were staring at my legs the whole time. I even tried to cover myself, but you just kept staring," she hissed, her eyes blazing. Betsy was a head shorter than me, which made her anger somewhat less intimidating. Suddenly, I had the urge to tease her. "Well, maybe if you hadn't pulled your shirt down, I wouldn't have seen anything," I retorted, unable to help myself. Betsy's expression shifted from confusion to shame, and finally to rage. "You pervert," she yelled. "You're not allowed to tutor my brother anymore." She was about to launch herself at me when the door suddenly swung open again, interrupting her attack. "Betsy, why aren't you driving yet? Did Lee change his mind?" Sarah asked, appearing in the doorway. Betsy's expression transformed in an instant from anger to a sweet smile. "He's just waiting for me, Mom. I'll be out in a second," she called back, her voice sickeningly sweet. I could only stare at her in disbelief. "Is she serious?" I mouthed at her as Sarah disappeared back inside. "Just wait here," Betsy hissed, then spun on her heel and marched towards the garage. As she disappeared from view, I let out a sigh of relief and snuck a peek at my phone. Her last message, sent a few minutes ago, was a cute, begging emoji. I scrolled up through our conversation. Babe, why aren't you answering me? One message read. He's not paying attention to my lesson, and I had to tell him off. Read another. She actually tells her online boyfriend about this stuff. In the past, I found it endearing that she was willing to share everything with me, even her petty grievances. But now, the thought of associating my sweet, vulnerable online girlfriend with the real-life ice queen, Betsy, was too strange. Another message popped up. Babe, when can we finally meet? I promise you won't be disappointed. For some reason, Betsy had been pushing for a real-life meeting recently. Luckily, I'd managed to avoid it. The last thing I needed was for my double life to be exposed. Sorry, babe, I don't think I'm your type. I look like a troll, I typed back, trying to let her down gently. Babe, you finally replied. What were you doing? Making me wait out here like this, she'd responded. I was starting to get annoyed. Let's just say I got an earful from a certain someone, I typed back, grumpy. Who dares to upset my baby? She'd fired back instantly. I almost laughed out loud. This was too much. My mom is making me drive your friend home. I refuse to be nice. I'm going to sleep in the car. Why do you hate your classmate so much? I typed, even though it was clear as day that she despised me. He said mean things about me behind my back, she replied after a few minutes. She still hung up on that. It happened during online classes when the school was closed due to lockdown. I had no idea how to use the software and couldn't figure out if the red line across the microphone meant it was muted or not. One of my buddies sent me a voice message. Dude, Betsy is gorgeous. And she drives a Ferrari. I think I'm in love, he'd said. Didn't some guy confess his love for her and get rejected? And he's loaded. You actually think you stand a chance? I'd replied, shaking my head. Trying to make him feel better, I added, besides, she's not even that pretty. Have you seen her face? One look at her, and you'd need to grab a jacket. Lee, please be quiet during class. And mute your microphone, please, the teacher interrupted. I was mortified. Then, another message from my friend. Dude, why is your mic on? The entire class heard you. And another. Lee, I hate you. After that incident, Betsy and the rejected guy both shot me icy glares every time they saw me. Eventually, the rumors died down, and Betsy didn't seem to care anymore. That was until now. I guess my words had a bigger impact than I thought. As I messaged Betsy, I also booked a ride home. The back door suddenly swung open again, and Sarah emerged, looking slightly surprised. Lee, what are you still doing here? Where's Betsy? She asked, scanning the driveway. Fearful of further enraging Betsy, I quickly reassured her. It's fine, Sarah. I already called a ride. Nonsense. I'll make Betsy take you. She pulled out her phone and dialed a number. Betsy, where are you? Get your butt over here, and show some respect to your mother. A minute later, Sarah flashed me a thumbs up. Soon, a red Ferrari roared to life, and Betsy glared at me as she gestured for me to get in. As soon as Sarah was out of sight, Betsy rolled up the windows, trapping me in a bubble of her floral perfume. I was almost tempted to text my buddies and brag about riding in a car they could only dream of. As we drove past a barbecue restaurant, I asked Betsy to stop. She shot me an annoyed look, but I ignored her and hopped out to grab some skewers. Back in the car, I checked my messages. As punishment, I'm not answering you, Betsy had written. I could practically hear the smugness in her voice. It dawned on me that I had met Betsy through a mobile game. We both enjoyed playing Call of Power, a mobile multiplayer online battle arena game. I had sent her an invite after seeing her username on the nearby players list, and to my surprise, she accepted. Now that I thought about it, it was strange that someone like Betsy, who seemed to hate all men, would ever agree to an online relationship. If my buddy ever found out, he'd probably die of jealousy. My phone buzzed with another message. Baby, when can we meet? I haven't even seen what you look like. What if you look like that classmate? Would you still like me then? For some reason, ever since she found out I was tutoring her brother, Betsy had been insistent on meeting up. Thankfully, I stood my ground and refused. I couldn't bear to think about the consequences if she ever found out the truth. Let's just say, I'm not as handsome as you might think, I finally replied, hoping to steer the conversation away from a meetup. I heard her message notification go off, but she didn't reply, probably because she was driving. Thanks for the ride, I said when we arrived at my stop. Yeah, whatever, she replied coldly, her voice devoid of any warmth. It was hard to believe this was the same girl who called me baby and sent cute emojis. As soon as I got out, the Ferrari sped away, leaving me standing on the sidewalk, covered in exhaust fumes. Ruthless, I thought. After a lot of effort, I finally found my mom's hospital room. She'd been hospitalized for a while, but she refused to tell me why. She was staying in a luxurious private room, alone as always. Mom, are you feeling any better? I asked, entering the room. Her face fell when she saw me, and she immediately tried to get out of bed. What are you doing here? You need to leave. I sighed. Mom, I know you're only here for that doctor. It's fine, I saw him leaving just now. My mother relaxed, sinking back into her pillows. Good, good. Can't let anyone see that I have such a grown-up son. Let's wait until he agrees to go out with me before we tell anyone. I couldn't help but laugh. Mom, why don't you just come home? I don't like living alone in that huge mansion. It's creepy. She ignored me and continued munching on the barbecue skewers. Nope, not happening. I'm staying right here until I get that doctor to fall head over heels for me. I sighed again. Mom, you do realize there's a saying about love being closer than you think? I pleaded. She ignored me. Why are you dressed like that? Didn't I buy you tons of designer clothes? Why do you insist on looking so ordinary? She said, finally acknowledging my presence. Whatever. Are you going to eat that last skewer or not? I asked, pulling up a chair. Eat the skewer, take the trash out, and then leave me alone, she said, shooing me away. I need to focus on winning over the man of my dreams. I spent the next hour trying to convince my mother to come home, but she was unmoved. Defeated, I booked a room in a nearby hotel for the night. As I snuggled into the hotel bed, I finally had a chance to catch up with Betsy. Talking to her online was a completely different experience from interacting with her in real life. Online, she was sweet, clingy, and vulnerable, a stark contrast to the ice queen she was at school. "So, what if I do look like that classmate of yours? Would that be a deal breaker?" I finally replied to her earlier message. "You're seriously still thinking about that?" "Of course it would be a deal breaker. Anyway, you could never be as horrible as him." "I'd probably have nightmares if you were," she replied. I rolled my eyes. I said he wasn't handsome, not that he was hideous. Why is she so hung up on this? "Honey, why didn't you play games with me today?" Another message popped up. The pet name made me cringe. I couldn't imagine Betsy, with her icy demeanor, ever calling someone honey in real life. Nope, not happening. I decided to ignore the endearment and get straight to the point. "I've been pretty busy lately. I probably won't be free to play much in the afternoon or evening." The truth was, if it wasn't for Betsy making me stay late, I would have had plenty of time for gaming. "Oh, alright," she replied, and I could practically hear the pout in her voice. "Good night, honey," she added, along with a picture of a sad kitten. "Night," I typed back, unable to bring myself to reciprocate the pet name. The last thing I needed was for Betsy to find out the truth and murder me in my sleep. The next morning, I hailed a cab to school. My mom had offered to let me drive her Porsche, but I didn't have a license, so a taxi it was. I spotted my buddy, Kevin, as soon as I got out of the taxi. He waved me over, his eyes wide with surprise. "Dude, since when did you become such an early bird?" I must still be dreaming. Before I could respond, the roar of an engine turned every head in our direction. A familiar red Ferrari screeched to a stop in front of the school gates. Betsy stepped out of the driver's seat, looking like a princess straight out of a fairy tale. I glanced around and noticed a much larger crowd than usual gathered around the entrance. "What's going on? Why are there so many people here?" I asked, confused. "Dude, you haven't heard. It's Betsy's birthday, and Jason Miller is planning to confess his feelings for her. We're here to watch the show," Kevin explained, his eyes sparkling with excitement. I scanned the crowd and spotted Jason, holding an enormous, elaborately decorated cake. The students around him whispered amongst themselves. "You're here early too. Excited for the confession?" I asked. Kevin scoffed. "Please, it's not a confession, it's a public humiliation. And we all know how this will end. No one in their right mind thinks she'll say yes." "Really? But Jason's pretty good looking," I said, genuinely surprised. Even from a distance, he was easily the most handsome guy in the vicinity, tall, with sharp features and an air of effortless confidence. He looked every bit the wealthy heir he was rumored to be. Kevin patted my shoulder like I was clueless. "Dude, you're so out of the loop. Dozens of guys have confessed their feelings for Betsy, many of them way better looking than Jason. And how many have succeeded? 0. Besides, the guy is bad news." Just then, Betsy got out of her car, slamming the door shut with more force than necessary. "What's wrong with him? He's brave for even trying," I said, curious now. "Brave? More like delusional. And I wouldn't call beating up another student in the bathroom brave," Kevin snorted. "Wait, what? He did what?" "Yeah, dude, Jason's a total jerk. Thinks he's better than everyone else just because his family has some money. Always picking on the less fortunate. Figures," I thought. Looks can be deceiving. Not only is he a jerk, but he also had the audacity to announce his grand confession in the class group chat. As if anyone actually believes he has a chance. "I'm only here to witness the train wreck firsthand," Kevin said, his voice full of morbid curiosity. Betsy was taking her sweet time getting out of her car. Is she seriously going to make him wait like this? My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a text from Sarah. "Lee, have you seen Betsy at school yet?" I looked at the Ferrari, which still had its engine running. "No, not yet." "Okay, find her. And Lee, don't tell her I asked you to look after her, okay?" Before I could reply, Betsy finally emerged from her car and started walking towards us, or rather, towards Jason. Kevin grabbed my arm, his eyes wide with anticipation. "This is it, dude. The moment of truth. Let's go get a closer look." Jason approached Betsy, his face full of confidence. "Happy birthday, Princess Betsy," he said, holding out the cake. "I've been wanting to tell you something for a long time." Betsy stopped in front of him, her face an emotionless mask. She glanced at the cake but made no move to take it. "Thank you," she said coldly. "But please, don't." She brushed past him, leaving Jason standing there, his face frozen in shock. The crowd erupted in a mix of laughter and pity. Kevin jumped up and down, nearly delirious with excitement. "I knew it. I knew she'd shut him down. I told you so. This means I still have a chance." I was about to congratulate him when I noticed something strange. Betsy was walking towards me, her eyes fixed on mine. "Oh no.